The video you're about to watch is part of a free Udemy course called TypeScript with Modern React. That's right, it's completely free. So if you do enjoy this video, be sure to check out the description where the link for this course will be. Hi guys, so in our next project we're going to make use of the useReducer hook. And I realised after I had recorded the project, I don't really do a good job of explaining what useReducer is. So we are back in Code Sandbox and we're going to run through how it works and the benefits of using it. Let's create a new React sandbox and let's get rid of some boilerplate things that we don't need. So we'll get rid of the styles here, and we're first going to create a const variable. Actually, we don't need any of this stuff in here either, but we'll leave it there for now. We are going to create a const variable which will use useReducer, and the useReducer hook takes in two arguments. It takes in the reducer hook, which we haven't yet created, and it takes in a default value. Now, the way the reducer argument works is in a similar way to the reduce array method. And I'm going to show you how that works now. So I'm going to use the console inside Code Sandbox. I'm going to clear everything here, and I'm just going to create a simple array. Okay, and the reduce array method takes two arguments as well. It also takes a function and a default value. So let's create that function now. We're going to call it sum. It will have two arguments and it will return a plus b. Okay, so that's created, even though it's undefined, don't worry about that. And now we're going to use the array reduce method, and it's going to take sum and our default value. So before I hit enter, what this is going to do is it's going to take the first two values in the array. Actually, it's going to take the default value and the first value in the array, and those will be our a and b arguments. It will add them together, return, and then do it to the next one. So it takes 0 and 1, and then take 1 and 2, and then take 2 and 3, and it will add the previous value to the next value. So if that's all correct, we should have the number 6. So that's how the reduce method works. Keep that in mind. I'm going to copy this and clear the console because we're going to use it later, but I'm going to have it in a comment here because I might refer to it at some point. So now let's create our reduce function or reduce variable, which would be a reducer, and currently that is not going to do much. So it's going to take in two arguments, state and action. You can call this whatever you want, but I'm just going to call it state and action for convention, and it'll be an empty object, and we're going to pass that into here. Okay, this isn't yet complete because there's an error, so let's finish this line. So the useReducer hook returns an array of two things. It returns an array of the state, which we're going to call count. So an array of what the value is going to be, and a function to change the value. So it's very similar to our use hook. I'll write it really quickly right now. So if we had a const, I'll call it test, and we use the use state. The use state returns an array with two things inside it, and the array is the current value and the function that is going to be used to change that current value, right? And that should be react.useState. So we know how that works already. In fact, let me give this some more room. It looks a bit squished. I'm going to close this because I'm not going to use any more files, and I've got some more room to see what is going on. Okay, so as you can see, these are underlined green because they're not being used, and it's quite similar to the use state hook in the sense that this is our value. This is our function to change this value. So this dispatch function, when it runs, will run an action, and the argument that's passed in the dispatch function will be passed into here, and it will affect whatever we have in here. Cool. So let us first of all remove this because we're not going to use it, and remove this class name app. We're going to create a simple counter, so an increment, decrement, and a reset button, and it will first of all have the count here, which would be 0 because that's the default value here. And then we are going to have a button to increment, which I will call plus, but another button to decrement or decrement, which I will call minus, and another button to reset, which I will call reset. And this is giving us an error because React needs a parent div to have everything in. We are going to use React fragment, but we're going to use that in a different way than we usually do. What we're going to do is just have a less than and greater than sign, and a closing one, which is shorthand for fragment. I'm going to save, and it will format the code with prettier, and it brings this back for some reason and forks the sandbox. I forgot it does that, but anyway. So we've got our buttons, and our reset button, and our state, which don't do anything at the moment. So let's give these buttons some actions. We'll have an on-click property here, and we are going to say, all right, when you click, run this dispatch function, and run it with the argument of add. Okay. So what this will do, you click it, it runs this dispatch function, comes here and pass it down into the reducer as an action. So we'll see it in action here. We'll do a console log, and we're gonna just print out the value of what this is just to see if it's working. Okay, and open up the console. If I click plus, it says add, so it's coming through. But as you notice, the 0 has disappeared, and that is because this is not returning anything. So it needs to return something for the action for the value to be displayed. So we're gonna return the state, which should be 0. So if I hit this one, it says add, which is perfect, but then it also returns the state. Okay. So what we want to do is say if the action that comes in is add, then what I want you to do is return the state +1. So whatever's in the state, just bring it back and add 1 to it. Press plus, it's running the add, and it's also adding them. Sorry, adding the default value. Simple enough. And we can do a similar thing for decrementing. We will call it add subtract. So add subtract, and if it is subtract, you probably get what's going on here. We have -1. So add, subtract, and if it's reset, it's going to hit our return state because we don't have an action for that. So we can create a quick action for that now. Call it res for reset, and have another if. And we'll say the state will equal 0. So you can add, you can minus, and if you want to get back to 0, hit reset. So this is a very quick explanation of how the useReducer hook works. It's similar to reduce because it's using this as the reduce, and it's got a default value at the beginning. Also quite similar to useState. Now, as you can see, this isn't the best way to write it, and we can write it in a few different ways. We can write all of this here as an object. So we can say, hey, we're going to create a constant object, and we're going to say if it's add, state will equal, state will +1, not 12. If it is subtract, then it'll be state -1, and if it's reset, then it'll be state will equal 0. Okay, and we pass that through by saying return whatever the object action is. Okay, so whatever's passed into the action, so it will read the action as the string, it will run this and return that. So I can do increment, I can do decrement, and I can reset. One problem with this is, for some reason, if we make a mistake here and we come back to our code, we can increment, we can decrement, but we've got a mistake and we hit reset, it wipes everything. And because we've written it this way, we can't have a return like we did before to return the state, whatever is written here. And this can be quite annoying if you've got loads of actions and you've got loads of reducers and you cause this bug and you're looking around trying to figure out where it is, how did this bug happen. And to avoid this kind of issue, what is convention is we don't have an if-else chain, we don't use an object, we use a switch case. So I'm going to get rid of all this and I'm going to write a switch on the action. I don't know what does that. And we are going to do a case of add. So if the action, that's not how you write a switch case, it needs curly braces. Okay, so if the action is add, then what we want to do is return the state +1. You're getting the hang of it now. I'm sure you probably figure out what happens next. If it is subtract, then it's the same thing here, but a -1 instead. And as you can see, this already looks a bit more condensed than our if chain. Finally, if we have a reset, we make state equal, we make state equal 0. And if it's none of the above, we have a default case which will return the state. Fantastic. So we can have increment, decrement, and reset. That's really 0, so it's a bad example. Reset, and if we happen to make a mistake here, like so, we can still increment, decrement, and reset, and it returns the state. In fact, we don't actually need this return because it's not being reached. And there we have it. Now the beauty of this is it doesn't have to be a string, it can be whatever you want. In fact, I could say, let's return an object, which is what we're going to do on our next project. So we can have one called type, which we add, and we can have something else in our object, something like a payload, which can be anything we want. I don't actually know why I've written that, but it's just to show that we can pass objects into our dispatch as well, and we can say, okay, if the action type is add, is sub, is res, then this should still work. Apart from this, which doesn't do anything because I haven't made it an object. So as you can see, this is a quick overview of the useReducer hook, and this is going to be used in the next project to replicate Redux and pass information around our components. I hope you found this useful. The video you've just watched is part of a free Udemy course called TypeScript with Modern React. That's right, it's completely free. So if you did enjoy the video, be sure to look in the description and find the link for this course.